Looks like the people, the citizens of Baltimore woke up and they are basically going to the polls. This is going to be a good one.
Almost a year to the day that the city of Baltimore erupted in unrest following the death of Freddie Gray, its residents will choose a mayor in what the Baltimore Sun is calling one of the most important elections in Baltimore history. Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake's announcement that she would not run for re-election opened the door to a primary fight between as many as 13 Democratic candidates, including Black Lives Matter activist DeRay McKesson. But 2 days from Election Day, the race has largely narrowed to a face-off between two frontrunners, former Mayor Sheila Dixon, who stepped down in 2010 following a conviction for embezzlement, and Catherine Pugh, the state Senate Majority Leader, who previously served on the Baltimore City Council. And in a race where early voting numbers have already doubled the turnout from the 2014 gubernatorial election, these top contenders have been fighting for those votes with the gloves completely off. Mark Steiner is back with me from Baltimore. All right, Mark, let's start with the polling. Catherine Pugh is now ahead. Sheila Dixon had been seen as the front runner despite her earlier troubles. Our latest polling, or the latest polling out of the Baltimore Sun, shows Catherine Pugh ahead about 31, 25, 29. Why do you suppose that Catherine Pugh has now pulled ahead in this race?
Well, here's what I've seen. I mean, first of all, Sheila Dixon, as you described, the former mayor of Baltimore, who had to leave office and resigned, has an unshakable 25% of the vote. Unshakable. People who love her and what she's done for the city, pick up trash on time and all the rest, and a strong black woman mayor. But there's a 35% in most of the other polls we've seen that would not vote for her under any circumstance. And Catherine Pugh has been able to take advantage of that and move ahead in the polls. And she's also got the support of the Democratic establishment, of a lot of corporate money in Baltimore, and national black money from around the country because of her political position. So she's run a very smart campaign, a really smart campaign. She didn't have a very strong base inside the black community. She's in terms of recognition in many ways, but she's built that. And so, and taking advantage of the fact that Sheila Dixon can't seem to break out of that 25% mold.
I'm wondering, though, if, some of the things that we've seen come up in this race, and these are not being done by any of the campaigns, they seem to be done by outside groups, might end up, in a sense, helping Sheila Dixon, just because they do seem a bit below the belt. There was a Clean Slate Baltimore Political Action Committee, and they put out an attack ad comparing Catherine Pugh's political record with Dixon's criminal record. That ad was denounced by both of the campaigns. And then you have this anti-Pugh mailer from the Dixon campaign that then turned around and tried to accuse Catherine Pugh of accepting, quote, illegal money to run for office. Is the nastiness of the campaign between these top two candidates, is it hurting either of them in any particular way?
I really don't think so. I really don't think so. First of all, Baltimore is a lot like Chicago, in a sense that, when they say they have campaign buses taking people to vote and they give them food and drinks, that's happened in almost every election in Baltimore. Nobody thinks twice about that, I think, and they're not really breaking finance laws the way some people they're accusing one another of doing. But I think it's a point of desperation at the end of this race is what you're seeing. There really isn't a huge amount of difference in terms of the policy and politics between Sheila Dixon and Catherine Pugh. And so I think but that push, I think there's some people have seen Elizabeth Embry's ads that post Pugh and Dixon next to each other in a kind of very kind of mean way. And people see that, and people don't like that, especially in the black community. But I think that's not. I don't think this is going to be a factor.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really interesting, and there's so much that's fascinating about Baltimore politics, is the fact that, the top three candidates are these three women, that African-American women have so much political saliency. Obviously, the outgoing mayor is a black woman, and you've seen a lot less traction for some male candidates who, in theory, one would have thought would have done really well. The Nick Mosbys of the world. Nick Mosby, obviously, his wife, Marilyn Mosby, the very popular prosecutor who prosecuted in the Freddie Gray case, and then, of course, DeRay McKesson, who is nationally, if not internationally known. Talk a little bit about this fact that you have seen black women be sort of the most powerful actors in the politics of Baltimore.
Well, black women are the engine that pulls the vote in Baltimore City. Oh, it's been that way for a long time, and it's still that way. And I think that's a big factor in this. The other part is that the male candidates have not been able to gain traction. DeRay McKesson, brilliant young guy. I like him a lot personally. I think because he came back to Baltimore, has not been here for a while, made some of the Black Lives Matter folks in this town, some of them, not all of them, kind of pull away from him. And he didn't have this, so he didn't have the push he thought he was going to have when he hit the city. That's part of it. People like Carl Stokes, a councilman who's been a real progressive voice in the city and has been a fighter for many things, again can't gain traction. This is his third try. And I think that it has more to do with the fact that who pulls the vote in the city, and also the fact that both Catherine Pugh and Sheila Dixon have such name recognition. People know them. They're known quantities. I think people are looking in some senses for some stability, which is why they elected Stephanie Rawlings Blake in the first place after Sheila was pushed out of office.
And I'm wondering then, with this race, obviously you have a hotly contested United States Senate race that also has an African-American woman we just talked about a little while ago, Donna Edwards. Are these local races in any way having resonance into the Democratic presidential primary? Or is the energy around any of these candidates in any particular way helping a Bernie Sanders or a Hillary Clinton? Or are these things really just sort of atomized in the politics of Baltimore?
I think it's more the latter, what you said, atomizing the politics of Baltimore. I don't know if they have that much effect. Bernie's very popular with young people in the city, black and white, and across the state. But I think the established candidates are going to win the day. But the big thing about this election is that most people don't see is that there are all these 20 and 30-something candidates running for city council. There are 6 open seats. There are 3 seats contested. There'll be a huge turnover. Some people say it will just be the establishment turning itself over, but more than that, there's the young people who are running that give really hope for the future here, because it's amazing to watch these articulate, bright, young men and women running for office. 2 of them running for mayor, but 3 of them running for mayor, I should say. But mostly in the city council. That's a dynamic that's not being covered. There's no reason for national magazines to cover this, news to cover this, but that is a factor here that bodes well for the city's future, I think.
Yeah, and that is the way cities are changed. A lot of people don't pay attention to these local elections, but local elections, that is how you begin to make real change in a city. Thank you so much, Mark Steiner. I really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
Okay, and as I stated, people in Maryland, but people across the country, when it's your turn, get out and vote, because like I said and what you just heard, it's the mayor, the city councilmen, police chiefs, judges that will have a direct effect on our everyday lives. And if we get out there and vote and put the right people into those positions, it can do nothing but help us. And finally, please vote for Donna Edwards if you live in the state of Maryland.